This is Build It Baby, the show for big ideas, brave pivots, and bold next chapters. So let's do it. Let's build it, baby. Well, if you're a dreamer who does, you're in the right place. I'm Penelope Bent, and this is Build It, Baby. So let's do it. Let's build it, baby. Well, as you know, I've been building and creating businesses for most of my adult life. And not until recently did I realize something important. The work environments that I built, the way people work together, the way we communicate, and the way we're treated, for the most part, are very different from what so many people experience at work. And interestingly enough, we spend so much of our waking hours at our jobs, whether we're working for an employer or we're building a business. I mean, that's what 2/3 of our lives are spent, making a living and supporting our families and so on. But we're in this work environment. And one thing that I have been completely adamant about is that I want to always be in an environment that I enjoy. I don't want to spend 1 minute, 1 hour of my life in an environment that is toxic. And that's what we've been, hearing about so much, especially since the pandemic, which I think is kind of interesting because that gave folks a moment to kind of step away, take a look at their work environments, and pause for a moment and ask themselves, what does this environment look like? What am I happy when I'm at work? Am I contributing to creating a very positive environment? Are the leaders that be creating a positive environment? Our work environment is a very valuable space of time. What could you say? A stretch of time in our lifetime that I believe needs to really, I'm always talking about protecting the quality of your life. Well, protecting your work environment is one of the most crucial areas of your life. And I think that this new conversation, this fresh conversation about the toxic work environment, I think that this environment, in many cases, is draining the life out of workplaces and the people inside them. And the people who tend to feel this first are the ones who care deeply, the ones wired to create or improve and take responsibility for what they're a part of, the ones who notice when something feels off, even if they can't always name it. And here's the truth of the whole thing. Toxic isn't okay, my friends. It is not normal. It never was. It never will be. That is not a normal, acceptable environment for you to spend your day. When people talk about toxic work environments, they're usually describing things like stress or burnout or politics or fear, exhaustion, the feeling of being disposable. Toxicity isn't created by pressure alone. It usually isn't very loud at first. It starts very quietly with, some unspoken rules, some survival behaviors that slowly become the norm. So I think when you're sitting there at work, I think it's important to step back and take a look at not only the symptoms, but what are the real causes that are creating this toxic environment. We're all, in my opinion, we all need to be responsible for where we spend our time. So if you're walking into a toxic environment every day, I mean, yeah, some of that it's on you. It's your choice to continue working at that particular location or with those particular people. I know that, people scream and yell and say, yeah, but I need to make a living. Well, yeah, you do. But do you need to sacrifice your mental health and the joy that you're allowing others to steal from your life in these environments? I mean, they don't have you locked up in the cage. The door's wide open. It's really your call whether you're going to stick around and contribute. And by contribute, I mean, I've watched situations where everybody's on a roll. They're all, everybody's upset. It's a pity party. They're bitching and complaining. And from dawn till dusk, people are angry about the environment and they're letting everybody know about it. So you go to work and you listen to the person next to you bitch and moan and complain about, the shitty environment that they're in all day long. Well, who's contributing to the environment? It may come from leadership, which I believe that everything trickles on down, but you're still participating in it by sitting there moaning and groaning and complaining. I remember when the modeling and talent development company was just really thriving, and we had about, 60 or 80 female models that were working within our company. And many of them, were all on big photo shoots together and layouts and traveled together and so on. And I had a really, really strict policy. It was a no drama zone. Because you have to remember, in the modeling and acting business, you're dealing with some very, very, it's a diverse there's diverse cultural aspects from all the different people, from all the different cultures that participate in creating these amazing products and images. You've got hair designers and makeup artists and models of all shapes and sizes. And for me, I was not going to spend one moment of my life over those 48 years shooting in an environment where people were bitching and moaning and complaining. I refused to work like that. I had a really, really strong policy about gossip. I didn't like gossip when I was in the 8th grade, and I sure as hell didn't like it in my work environment, nor would I tolerate that. My belief was, I'm the owner, I'm running the joint, and if you have a problem, bitching next to your girlfriend sitting next to you is not going to solve the problem. Come to me, ask for some time, let's sit down, figure out what the concern is, what the disruption is, and what we can do to make it a smooth ride for everyone. It wasn't just about me. This was about the whole group. So it meant a lot to me to know what the concerns would be. So I think leadership today, it's very important that as leaders, we set the tone for what the work environment is going to be for all of those that we're responsible for. So as you build your company or you work within a company, encouraging leaders to set the tone and not allow for a toxic environment to be created. I mean, that's the number one step in the right direction. If people are unhappy in your company, then you need to find out why, and you need to correct that as quickly as possible. I also think from an employee perspective, I mean, it is so easy to sit there and not know all the details about what is going on in the office of the leadership. What financial struggles are they going through? There might be times when they're trying to hold the whole thing together with spit and baling wire, and their demands are in many times will be, maybe more severe than they actually should be. I think that there is a little bit of that we should absorb and try to understand. And then if it gets so intense, then I think that's the time when you need to go to leadership or the powers that be and talk about what this toxic environment is about. But we can talk about it. We can, it's everywhere. Seems to be what the norm is. Well, it doesn't have to be the norm. It doesn't have to be the way we're going to move forward in business. But it always, in my belief, it takes two to tango. So we all need to participate, not just the employers, but the employees as well, taking a look at how am I bringing my poopy mood to the office every day? What if I shifted a little bit? What if I gave someone the benefit of the doubt? What if I was a little more firm in my boundaries, that I need some family time. I can't possibly get this done in time. I'm in the middle of a move. I'm moving apartments or whatever the case may be, and I can't take that new project on. Being honest about what you're capable of doing and not living within some type of fear. I know that a lot of times leaders have a tendency to want to lead by fear, create a fearful environment, a threatening environment. I remember, one of the very first jobs at a very upscale retail store that I had when I was just a teen. The manager would cut hours back. If you didn't make your sales quotas or you didn't perform at the level that she required, then she would threaten to give you fewer hours the following week. And, once you saw that happen a couple times to one of your workmates, man, you were hustling. You were trying to have your numbers as high as possible, not because you were enjoying your work, but you were terrified. You were afraid that you were going to lose your job. There's no way to live. So I think there's a few ways we can start responding to this. We can't fix everything or take on more than is ours, but we can start naming what the experience looks like. Do I feel energized or do I feel depleted? Can I speak honestly with fear? Am I growing or am I just enduring? Awareness is the first act of self-trust. And I think we need to stop normalizing. If something is really uncomfortable and is hurtful, that's not okay. And you do have a position of power. Don't underestimate if it's calmly distributed in a manner that is good for the entire group, that is a professional suggestion. And I think that how we choose to show up, how we choose to communicate our concerns clearly, and how we set boundaries. We can set boundaries in the workplace without really even saying a word. And we don't have to gossip. I remember my mother saying when I was very young, when someone decides to throw comment about someone, your response is simply, "Oh?" I always laughed at that. Because, I can't keep my mouth shut that long enough to just say, "Oh," or perhaps ask a better question rather than digging into the dirt of it all. These are all small choices, but they shape the tone of your day and of your energy. They help create what we can bring to the table. Know when it's time to choose a different environment. That's the part that really matters. Staying in a system that slowly erodes you isn't loyalty. It's really self-betrayal. And leaving doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be thoughtful. It can be compassionate. And sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is to choose a different foundation, choose a different path. If you're unhappy in the environment that you're working in, it doesn't have to be rectified tomorrow, but you can start looking at other paths, other opportunities. What does the current job market look like out there? Talking through your network. I mean, there may be toxic environments out there. I don't doubt that. But it's your life. It's your job. It's your job to create an amazing life for yourself. Not to feel stuck within an environment that at the heart of it, that it's wrong. So we can talk about toxic work environments, but we don't have to accept them. We don't have to build companies that allow for that type of an environment. We can create companies with great leadership, with a great team of equal partners with our employees. And I don't mean necessarily equal financially, but equal in the respect of the respect that they're given, of their contribution to the growth of the company. I mean, respect goes a long way. Appreciation, respect for others. You can't have toxic environments if you have respect and trust in yourself, respect and trust in others, honesty, the willingness to collaborate, the lack of fear, the understanding that, hire smart, because smart people will give you great ideas. Don't be fearful that who you hire might be smarter than you are. Hire smart. The smarter, the better. They'll teach you something. You can help your company grow. There's no fear in that. I mean, you can't know everything. You can't be great at everything, but you can be great at surrounding yourself with great people and creating great environments. That's up to you. Our work environments are built on trust and clarity and ownership. That doesn't appear by accident. They're shaped choice by choice. And if you're listening to this and thinking, wow, yeah, something has to change, that's not pressure. That's clarity. And you're as much a part of the change as the powers that be. So find your clarity and speak your truth. It's one step at a time, one intentional step at a time. That's what will change the toxic environment. So here's the part where I tell you exactly what I know. These are my knowings, the things I no longer question because they've shown themselves to me again and again. Not from a book, but from building, getting knocked down, getting back up, and doing this work in the real world. So now it's time for my knowings. Number 1. Toxic work environments don't start with chaos. They start with silence, with people swallowing their truth to survive. And builders were never meant to survive. We were meant to build. We were meant to thrive. And we were meant to help those around us thrive. That's what we should be building. Not through chaos, but through truth. Number 2. You don't need to have a title to shift a cultural experience, the toxic culture that you may be experiencing. You need clarity and boundaries and the courage to stop normalizing dysfunction. Lead from the inside out. You're leading because you care about the environment. You care about where you're working. You care about the people that you work with. You don't need a title to make this shift. You just need determination and clarity. Number 3, there is nothing noble about staying in a place that erodes your confidence. Growth requires space, and sometimes that space isn't where you are. Your life, your career, your business deserves a strong foundation. Sometimes the bravest build is choosing a new foundation. And number 4. Toxic environments didn't begin recently. What began recently was self-trust. It was the awareness. It was the pause, the step back, when we all started really clearly seeing the work environment, the workplace. And really, in some respects, I think our awareness and the discussions recently about the toxic work environment are because we care about the lives that we are building, not only for ourselves, but for others. So this didn't just begin. This is about the trust that we have found in ourselves to speak honestly about where we're spending those many, many hours of our day. So those are my notes. Okay, so now it's time for our listener questions. So here we go. This is from Becky in Tampa, Florida. So Becky writes, I read recently that founders spend 60% less time with spouses, 58% less time with kids, and 73% less time with friends and family, and that the average level of loneliness reported is 7.6 out of 10. Do you believe this to be true? Wow, this is a really interesting question, Becky. So, well, if they're stating this statistically, then I'm assuming that whoever wrote this article was gathering some information from some study that apparently has found these percentages. But what I will tell you or share with you is that those relationships with spouses and family and children, that really is how, that depends on how, as a founder, how you are building your business and what type of a business that you are building. My family was always involved in the business in some shape or form. So I never felt that in all the years that I have been building that it was, I was over here in my family and the children were over there. As a matter of fact, I remember my daughter at 9, sitting on my photography studio floor, sorting negatives in the day, way before digital. So, that was kind of a job that we could create for her so that that she, would be in the same environment if I was working in the, afternoon after school, her after school time or evening. And so many of my friends were also involved in my work environment. They became my friends. So I think it really depends as a founder of what type of business that you're building. And I would encourage you to, have your spouse and your family and your friends involved. I mean, owning your own business or building your own business, it is kind of a 24/7 thing, at least in your head. But that doesn't mean that you have to be over there and your kids and spouse are at home and that you're lonely. I think the most successful businesses are built when your lifestyle is encompassing as part of the business that you're building. So I think statistically, perhaps this may be the situation. This makes me very sad because I can't imagine being a builder and feeling a sense of loneliness as though you're out there on an island all by yourself. So I think if these statistics are speaking to you, then maybe that's something that you should take a look at when you're building. If this is the kind of a founder that you want to be, or if you want to be more inclusive, you want the family to be more inclusive, if, they're helping you do the setup or whatever the case may be. So I think from a statistical perspective, that's a statistic that we all should encourage builders to change, to feel that they can have more participation from their family and not be afraid to share what's going on with family and friends. It should not be an isolated, lonely experience. It should be one of joy. At least that's the way I believe building businesses, because you're not only just building businesses, you're building your life, and it's your choice. So Those are my thoughts, and it's a very surprising statistic, but I don't believe that it is one that is with every builder. I think you can make a choice and build the type of life and the type of business that will be a perfect fit for you. But interesting question, Becky. Thank you so much. Well, it's that time. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Build It, Baby. Remember, you're not here to survive work. You're here to build with integrity, intention, and courage. Whether you're rebuilding where you are or designing what's next, trust your knowing. This is how we end toxic environments, not by complaining louder, but by building better. Always best, P. Build It Baby is a Rainy Day Production House original, hosted by Penelope Bent and produced and edited by Morgan Clymer. Music by Yuri Shemshashen and Oleksiy Holobiev. If this episode spoke to you, please follow the show and leave a review. It helps more dreamers like you find us. And remember, you're not just building a bold business or a career, you're building a bold life.